Where has this report gone? Who's got it?
Who's seen it? This is the last of a 3-day tour of the report, if you want. I gave a presentation to government department heads and officials on Tuesday. They received the report prior to that. Most government ministers related, obviously, to do with agriculture have received the report, so government is aware of it. Yesterday I gave a presentation to stakeholders, those who contributed to the report and those directly affected by the report. And that was more of a discussion, an open forum for them to give me feedback, to raise other additional concerns and so forth that affected them.
How about the Sustainable Roundtable?
It hasn't been officially, formally presented to them, though I have been given an invitation to formally give it to the Sustainable Development Unit, and then it will be proposed and given to the Roundtable.
So this strikes at the very heart of what they stand. Looking at the agricultural scene, you say there are some places have not been farmed, but a number of the planning decisions that have been made over the last 10 years have flown fully in the face of sustaining arable land. Where do you get to attack that one?
Well, I guess first of all I must admit that I'm not a planner, so it's stated quite clearly in the report that's not my area of expertise. But I think as a country, you know, especially having just gone through the review of the development plan, we need to look carefully at moving forward how we deal with agricultural land and how we protect it. As far as my understanding goes of development plan and policy and so forth, there's still an allowance to develop on agricultural land. So I think we need to assess that and understand, does this make sense? Of course, there are those who own the land who want to develop possibly a small portion of it, and I think that's the allowance to put a single dwelling unit on it. But I think at the same time, again, it's just raising the question for everybody. Does this make sense? We only have a limited amount of space left for designated as agricultural land. Does it really make sense at this point in time to allow it to continue to be developed?
In terms of the report itself, just a couple of details. How long is it? And you said who's been given it already. How long is the report?
Page-wise, it's about 55 pages.
And how long did it take?
How long did it take?
Yeah.
It took about 3 months to do, and that's actually the research and the writing of the report itself. Obviously, as I spoke to the drafting the proposals, going through the raising of and getting the endorsements, and also getting the funding together, it took a little bit longer than that, almost probably a year in total.
And that involved you going out into the community, speaking to the farmers and that kind of thing?
That's correct, yeah.
Is there anything that wasn't in the report that got brought up at the forum yesterday?
There are specific issues that farmers have to do with a number of technical things, to do with seeds, to do with services provided to them that they would like to see improved. But again, it was more technical things that they would like to see improved. But you know, on that note, the farmers that did attend the forum had a lot to contribute, and positive stuff to contribute. So it wasn't at all pointing fingers or negative comments. They had a lot to say about Bermuda's agriculture and where it could go. So they're positive about it.
Do you have a figure for how much land we've lost over, say, the last decade or 50
Well,
years?
since the turn of the 20th century, after the heyday of the agricultural industry, we lost an estimated 2,100 acres of agricultural land. So that gives you some idea. And at one point we had 3,000 active acres of agricultural land. This was in the heyday in the 1890s to about 1910. 3,000 cultivated acres and 3,000 people in the industry. So, and today we have about 18 full-time farmers. We have about 30 part-time farmers. And as I said, we have about the total amount of agricultural land, zoned agricultural land, is around the 700 acres mark, and only half of that, or slightly less than half of that, is actually in active production.
Just talk about food security. Can you explain that?
Basically, food security is similar to focusing on any other forms of security for small island small island state like Bermuda. The government has done a great job in looking at energy and energy security for the island. So it's the same sort of philosophy looking at food security. I think as an island we've taken for granted where our food comes from, the supplies of our food. So it's looking basically at assessing those issues, assessing where our food comes from, what food is on the island, how much is stored, how much we consume, and so forth. And the reason that it's raised, and it's being done on a global level in other jurisdictions, because there's no genuine security for any food source, especially staple food sources around the world. If you look at the crisis of the Icelandic volcano earlier this year, where transportation was cut off to Europe, they were in a scared state. If you read the reports, they show that fresh produce and so forth, which is mostly produced in Africa and from the Middle East, they were running out of in European countries. It's the same with rice scares that we had in India when they had a bad harvest. The Indian government decided to put a moratorium on the export of rice. That affected the price of rice, therefore making it more scarce for other consumers around the world. So it's the issue of addressing that in Bermuda. It's not to scaremonger people. Of course, we've been dependent on importation of food for a long time. And we have great transport links. Obviously, we can get most of what we want in stores on a daily basis. But it's doing an assessment of the present state of our food supplies is really what it's about, what I'm trying to hit home with the report itself.